Middle Cow.
Hey, behaves.
Bum, 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 bum. We're recording this podcast on a Sunday afternoon after the afternoon window games conclude and before Sunday Night Football. We are live on YouTube. To everybody on YouTube, we salute you. Thank you for being here. Give us a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. If you are listening to this podcast after the fact, thanks for listening. Leave us an iTunes review. In that review, leave us a question. That is how you get in the upcoming, could be meaty, very angry, maybe not. We'll see. Half glass, half full, mailbag.
Yes. Make sure you leave a question for the mailbag in the Apple iTunes. Facebook, try to drive you people there. I don't see you guys interacting. Check out our Facebook page. This is what we do. We drive, guy. We drive people. You got to actively go to your Facebook account. I know you all have them. I see the stats. 1 billion people are on it. You know, I know we don't use.
I mean, if we're being honest, we could do a better job of putting stuff there and
we
going
could.
Back and forth.
I'll try to get more active.
So, but yeah, go there.
As long as you listen to the podcast and watch the YouTube channel and tell your friends about it, I'm happy with you guys.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about tonight. YouTube, the comments started flying before we jumped on here, so there's a lot to get to. We've been getting a lot of photos from you guys who already on Sunday, per normal day, but then as the afternoon wore on, even a little bit more of the Tito's. We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Phenomenal product. We believe in it very strongly. We believed in it long before they became advertisers, supporters, sponsors of the podcast. And if you haven't tried yet, it will deliver. It will deliver.
Guy, did you know it was the #1 vodka in America?
I've heard that rumor.
Yeah, #1 vodka in America. Sources say #1 spirit, so that encompasses every single alcohol. We appreciate everyone that has drank all weekend, taking pictures. Some people, we just get like people going to the liquor store and just opening up the cold box, taking us videos, linking us on Twitter. We love those. We can't get enough, just like intimate DMs. People will just DM me like at their house by themselves, like not, with their wife or anything, by themselves with a cocktail.
In bed with a bottle of Tito's.
It's just a one-on-one move, so it's just they're trying to link us, tweet at us, Instagram at us, and we appreciate having the #1 vodka as the sponsor of this podcast after the 49ers started 2-2. We had hoped for better.
Yeah. Unlike the Niners offense, you can count on Tito's to be the same every time.
You can. Maybe Kyle needs to have a couple.
Yep. 1995, that's when Tito Beveridge, the man himself, built his own distillery. Couldn't get investors, so he racked up 19 credit cards, made it happen. First legal distillery in Texas. He started pouring for free at fundraisers. His business blew up. He won a bunch of awards. He started selling to Trader Joe's. He started selling nation and worldwide. And you know what, John? Tito's has continued its connection to the community, even through all of the success as they've grown more of their charitable efforts. In fact, coming up in a couple of weeks, Tito's is partnering with Urban Sprouts through their program, Love Tito's, the Block to Block program. Tito himself very big on getting fruits and vegetables into quote unquote food deserts. These are areas where it's tough for people to have access to fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. You can go to urbansprouts.org if you're interested in volunteering. They'll be revitalizing the Nelson Garden in South San Francisco, and they do it all over the country. So urbansprouts.org if you want to get involved. You can also just check out the Love Tito's Block to Block program for more information there. Wherever you are, if you want to get involved in what is one of the many great causes Tito's is involved with.
Yep, and we really appreciate you drinking the #1 vodka in America, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Yeah. We also, one of the things coming in this week was Seahawks plus 2.5.
Yeah.
Felt pretty good plus 2.5 about halftime. If you had the Seahawks plus 2.5 in that game, you felt pretty good.
Well, I'm just opening my book account, guy. We had a pretty big win today. And a little loss, but a big win. I'm glad we went mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Heavy on the Chiefs. That's just our philosophy. Take a good team against a bad team. It was a little close, but, they separated by the end. It was like a little icing on the cake with that touchdown to Tyreek. So we hit our big $300 bet. We did lose our dud. Minnesota, that offense, I kept looking up. They just had 7 points on the board the whole game. They couldn't score.
It wasn't really our dud. That was another game we liked, right?
Yeah, it was 11-7. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good. They're going to pull this off. And then the final drive, even Cousins had the ball late. But hey, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Baseball's starting, right? The playoffs are starting. So you can bet on to win the almost said the NFC, the NL and the AL. You can bet on the wild card games, Dodgers, St. Louis, Red Sox, Yankees. I've heard that's a pretty big rivalry. That's a one winner take all. That's a pretty cool little wild card game, guy.
Incredible.
There's going to be some juice on that game too. Is that Tuesday night? There's going to be some eyeballs on that
wild
bad
card
boy.
games are Tuesday, yeah.
So get ready for that bad boy. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Football. Oh, Raider game right now is Raiders are +3. That's pretty tasty. Raiders +3. I got a couple texts, Snapchats actually from a couple people randomly today on planes flying down to SoFi for tomorrow for some Raider fans. So people are fired up.
Yeah. See, you have Raider friends.
Oh yeah. A lot.
All right, let's begin. Well, we've already begun, but let's really begin. They look bad. The 49ers looked really good and then suddenly looked bad. And they lost a game that Seattle tried to get behind the 8 ball early. The 5 straight 3-and-outs to start the game. The 49ers offense just could not get in the end zone. The field goal, I can't blame Mitch Wishnowsky. I thought,
good
like
leg
if he was
power.
driving the golf ball, he was just a foot off the fairway, John. But I guess that
Yeah.
doesn't. You don't get a second attempt to hit the green in football. But this team just does not look good. I think we'll talk about elements of the offense. Defense wore down. It's hard to blame them. Their offense was not helping them out. But the multiple mistakes, the D Ford penalty, a Dre Kirkpatrick penalty, I can't really blame the operation. Like, that's just what happens with Dre Kirkpatrick historically in his career. I think somebody tweeted that was the 49th pass interference penalty on him. I don't know where that ranks, but that seems like a lot.
Well, they lead the league right now in PIs.
As
You
a
hear
team.
that? Yeah,
Yep.
8.
Yep. So the mistakes on special teams, the Cannon punt recovery that he rolls into the end zone. Guess what happened on that drive? They get the ball at the 25. Seattle marches down and scores. Flies down the field and scores. And then the fumble. It did not look buttoned down. It did not look organized. It just looked bad.
You ever seen a guy muff a kickoff and then hit the ground, then get back up, and then proceed to fumble the kickoff? That's an all-timer.
When I saw it live, I thought there's no way the ground didn't cause the fumble. And then you see the replay, and
you're like, 100% the ground did not have anything to do with
had
this.
nothing to do with it.
Before we get into Kyle's team that looks fucking terrible, if that guy, and listen, when I say this, he's not a bad guy. I'm sure I'll assume he's a high character, plays really hard. This is the NFL. It's a bottom line business. And sometimes, even if you like the guy, they acknowledged he was terrible because they yanked him out of the game and put Debo back there. I would cut 49 tomorrow. And it's not a sign of like you might not even have anything to improve. It might be a neutral move. It might be one where you have to sign someone else. That can't be accepted. You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. That sounds cliche, but that's how Belichick operated for 20 years when they were kicking everyone's ass. When that type of stuff happened, that player, when it's not like one of your core guys, is removed from the roster. So it shows Debo Samuel and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, your core guys who played their ass off and had no control or like did everything possible to win. This will not be tolerated. Because right now, I don't know how you watch the Niners and go, Kyle Shanahan's a good football coach. Because part of being the head coach is more than just calling offensive plays. And right now, the offensive plays are fucking terrible. The offense is putrid. It really is. It was good in those first couple drives.
But it was good beyond that. The first touchdown drive, the second drive, the third drive was the missed field goal. I thought Jimmy made some bad throws. He almost got Kittle murdered on a high ball. He almost got Debo got crushed by Wagner on a bad ball, and then he threw the pick on the next play. To me, the worst, the call that really failed was they actually had a good drive going, and then they ran the quarterback throwback pass. That was that did not
Kittle
work.
was wide open, even though he was kind of limping down.
It was
the
a good
field.
call, but you're trusting a running back who I don't know how many carries he'd had up to that point to get a throwback pass to Jimmy.
Well, Jim, here's my thing, and it goes back to the coaches and their head coach, who's an offensive genius guru. He's paid $12 million a year, let's say. I think it's an astronomical amount of money he makes. And he's the head coach, so he, when that fucks up on special teams, like ultimately we crush other coaches that have nothing to do with special teams. Like that's his whole operation. But to me, the offense, like Jimmy's getting worse as the game went on. Like Jimmy can't execute in clear moments. Like he's regressing. Like I put that on Kyle. the rookie quarterback comes in, who we'll get to in a minute, and it looks like he hasn't even practiced in a month. So I just go, like, Wes Welker, clearly the receivers pretty well coached up. I go, these guys improve. Kittle has looked the same. Juszczyk, his running back coach, Shanahan's dad's guy that he's had forever, they're doing a good job. I'm starting to wonder, like, Kyle's, if he was a pitcher right now, he would be getting yanked in like the third or fourth inning. It has not gone well for him the last couple games. It just hasn't. Like, because you can put up a ton of yards. They can't score touchdowns. They got the garbage time touchdown at the end of the game to make it 28-21. He had a couple play calls on that 4th and 2. And again, the game was somewhat, it felt over at the time in the fourth quarter. They ran that sweep to Debo. It didn't even get close. It's
Yeah,
like,
4th and 1, and that play was DOA.
His rhythm on play calling to me is just shot. And you can say, well, the quarterbacks are playing bad. Well, fuck, isn't that his job to coach these guys? I put that on Kyle.
I put a lot on Kyle. To me, his rhythm on offense is not, it looked bad in the Packer game. I thought it looked better for most of the first half. And I thought Jimmy, again, is Jimmy regressing, or has Jimmy been missing throws high his whole career? And he just happened to do it one year when he had a defense that took the ball away a ton and didn't let anybody do anything to them. I thought that of all the things, if we rank like play calling, I think overall the team not being a button down operation, obviously on Kyle, I'd put that to me is a bigger issue than the play calling. Because I thought they had some rhythm, and then it'd be a play here, a high throw here, almost gets Kittle broken in half. I thought
Kittle's really lucky his season didn't end right there.
Very lucky. I thought Sermon looked better, and I thought they had him in rhythm several times over the course of the game. And then I think the big picture GM stuff, like this team basically rolled it back, especially in the secondary and on defense. And that was a mistake. Their secondary, the way they planned for the secondary, mistake. Ambry Thomas not contributing right now, which is okay. Maybe not every rookie contributes right away, but they took a 3rd round cornerback at a position that they need help right now, and that guy's not contributing. So that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted a guard in the 2nd round who's on the bench.
And then I think the other thing as time goes on, and like you said, we'll talk about Trey plenty, but as time goes on, the question will be, how do we look back at this season? Will we look back and say Trey Lance should have been the starter week 1, because then he would have looked better by the time you got to the Seahawks game, right? What does he do with Trey Lance next is going to be a big part of this. But
well, this is my issue a little with coaches, and this is where front office people butt heads with coaches. Because once the season starts, they get so caught up game to game, as they should. But they often in that mode, and this is what separates the really good coaches from just the kind of coordinator types, which obviously Kyle had one great year. But when you get locked into the coordinator type, which I think when you're struggling, it's hard not to. So I don't even blame Kyle for getting in the tunnel vision. You go all in on Jimmy, right? Because you're just trying to do everything possible. Let's just use this week as an example. You just lose a devastating game to the Packers where they like throw a party on your field and you're the guy, big times you have a weird moment at half. Like you're just in a bad place. So then you throw the kitchen sink with Jimmy. And like you said, they were moving the ball with ease in the first half. After the first quarter, they had 167 yards. Seattle had -3. And they had stopped, at the time, like 4 straight 3-and-outs. So, like, you couldn't have played any better. But the point of the game is not just yards. It's like you got to fucking score points. And that's Kyle's job, is to score points. Now, like you said, the field goal, his kicker, who's pretty, let's face it, they pay a lot of money, gets hurt in warm-ups. We're not quite sure. Who knows? Kyle's probably talking right now. Clearly got injured probably actually in warm-ups, because if he would have got injured yesterday, they would have.
He wouldn't have been in uniform. Yeah, I thought Mayoko, I think, tweeted that something happened in warm-ups.
So I'm not putting the missed field goal on him. I agree, but
good hold by Juszczyk.
Yeah, I thought it was, again, good hold, good powerful kick.
Both of them.
You get locked in on the game plan stuff. But the problem is you're locked in on Jimmy. You're clearly not coaching up your backup quarterback, and Jimmy kind of came to fruition like he's a guy that just always gets injured. Today felt like his most random injury of his career, and he's had a lot of injuries. Like, we didn't even see it coming, and then he's just out. So it's just their whole operation, which Kyle is in charge of. Everyone in the organization answers to him. So when it's unbuttoned, like, we're not blaming Jed. Like, Jed fucking pays him all this money. He gets to run. It's one of the best jobs in the league. You get this absolute powerhouse of a franchise worth as much money as every franchise but like 3 in the league. You get to run fucking everything. You get to hire your buddy, who we like, John Lynch, but you get to do everything you want. You get to trade all these picks for quarterbacks. We just judge then on the games, and the games the last couple of weeks have just, It's been a mess. It's reminded me, and I texted you this, it's had some Raiders feel to it. Some of the times when I was going to the Raiders game, I'm not talking this Raider team. I'm talking some of the Del Rio where the hype does not equal up what we're seeing week in, week out. Kyle's having a terrible season, in my opinion, given where he's put in the hierarchy. Like, when you get put in this hierarchy, you know, you get expected to just win, like Andy Reid or whatever. You just like, I'm watching you and you go, what are you doing? Because the defense is carrying this team, right? Without
yeah,
the defense,
I mean, yes,
they're not scoring any points.
The defense kept them in the game today. Yes.
But they didn't score any points last week, really. They're not, I mean, they can't put up 30 if their life depends on it.
Yeah, their defense kept them in the game, but their defense also has some flaws that tend to show up in big moments, like it did today.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying they are some elite defense. I'm just saying, like, the defense can make a lot of plays that, like, the Chiefs' defense don't even have that in the bag, right? I mean, there are some defenses on better teams that don't even have, like, they have multiple huge impact players where they can get you stops, they can create these 3 and outs, and then you just do nothing. And I think it's easy for us to blame Jimmy, but it's like, you know, like Kyle, like, call a different fucking play for him. I don't know. It's your job. Like, you're the one making $12 million. The offense is your baby. And I've been watching football long enough to know, like, it's just off.
It is off. It's absolutely off. I like I said, I see a lot of misses when the offense is in rhythm. I saw enough rhythm from the offense early in the game today that, to me, it's bigger than just play calling. Now, with Trey Lance, this goes back to, well, I'll hold that thought on Trey Lance because we'll get to him. But I don't think there's any question. I think we saw quite a bit of negativity around Kyle last week, and that's going to continue this week. I don't think there's any. I think that's going to be the majority opinion. We can look in the chat here, but to me, it looks like the chat feels the same way.
Yeah, well, I mean, after that performance, how could you not?
Well, exactly.
But I just think we really need to hammer home that Kyle's in charge of everything. You know, so like I put the special teams, like I put that on Kyle. If 49's still on the team, like that is a reflection of your operation. If that was Debo or Ayuk, I think people look at me crazy when I go, I would cut the guy. Like that's the NFL. Like
See, I don't think people do. I think because it was multiple mistakes.
Do you think he gets cut tomorrow?
I don't know what he does, but I think it should be. Yes, I mean I'd have zero problem with it.
Yeah, I just think it's an easy one. And
but
I know
it
there's
doesn't
going to
solve
be a
all
lot
your
going on.
problems.
No. It's just, but it is a microcosm of like, okay,
I
this
don't even
is
think
not
it's
acceptable.
Here's the other thing. I don't even think it's just about sending a message so much as it is, can you trust him on special teams again after you made 2 major mistakes
Yeah,
in a
I don't
game?
think you can.
It's not even right. Like you could argue. Now, I think your point about the message to the guys that are playing well is a great point. But I think the other thing we saw today, if I'm going to defend the defense a little bit, not that they need defending, but was I think they kind of wore out because their offense wasn't helping them at all ultimately, right?
No.
And I think one thing we know, it's just as a game goes on against Russell, you start feeling like it's a matter of not if he makes a play, but when he makes a play. Like, because you look up at halftime, you're going, are they really going to keep DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett just in check for 4 quarters? Like, no one's going to make a play the whole game?
Remember when the big knock on DK was he was only straight line? He couldn't run any of the lateral drills at the combine. Do you notice they ran this play to him last week? They ran it again today for the touchdown where he run. Some teams call it like the Texas route where you go left and then you break back right. The knock on DK, he's just stiff. He's just a straight line 4-1 guy. Well, I don't know what they're doing pliability down there, but now they got him going side to side on these routes. That guy's unstoppable. I actually thought the Niners got lucky that they didn't just force feed him the ball nonstop. Like, hey guys, if I was John Schneider or something in the box, like, Pete, throw it to 14. You see these guys fucking cornerbacks? Like Lockett clearly, I think they mentioned this before the game. He felt a little funny in warm-ups, like he was trying to force
and DK had like it was on the injury report
he
as
looked
well.
pretty normal to me.
I know.
And then once they get those, you know, Alex Collins is a Bielema, Arkansas guy. Carson is that style of guy. Like, once they kind of can get a lead on you, despite I think they're viewed as a little softer of a team, they do have just those little bowling ball running backs that just Kyle would die to have that guy right now.
Alex Collins looks like. I mean, I don't want to do it. I guess the hair makes it easy, but he run. I mean, it's like, is that some bigger Marshawn type back?
He's a good player.
Especially once the Niners defense started to wear down, it felt like a little bit and deflate, and then it just was a powerful punch from him. And at 7-0, it happens a lot, right? Where you're playing really well, but your lead isn't big. And so in some weird ways, you don't have momentum because the other team knows that you're kind of that you're hanging on to your lead for dear life. And it just felt like a matter of time before Seattle took advantage of it. And they did. I mean, it scores 7-7 at halftime when Trey comes in. And you go, okay, well, this is not where you want them. Right? This could go like one of two ways, is what you're thinking in that moment. Like, before they showed Jimmy on the sideline.
But a huge part of it, Guy, when it was 7-7 at halftime, and really when it was 7-0 for a majority of the first half, you just felt like this is not good. Because when you're kicking their ass, to not be up at minimum, let's say 13. Now it's hard because the field goals were clearly going to be an issue after he missed the first one. But to not get a couple touchdowns.
To not have two touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah, and that goes back to Jimmy and Kyle. Like, they just, whatever reason. And you could just say, well, it's Jimmy. Well, I mean, Kyle fucking keeps throwing him out, keeps calling these plays for him. Like, I would get him more on the move than just his drop back passes. Because, like you said, over the middle, he's getting people killed. Very, very lucky. Kittle's pliability at age 26 or whatever he's at is at an all-time high. Because that, wouldn't you say most players there snap their leg?
Yeah, I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kittle ends up not knowing anything, right?
Sprained
that
knee,
knee doesn't
adrenaline.
end up swollen tomorrow and it becomes more of an issue next week. He's already dealing with the calf.
Would you see when they showed that pick, not the pick, but the replay of the double pass, and he was barreling down and Jamal, and he was kind of limping.
Yeah, he was not. No, you're right. He was not 100%.
This is where I go back to cutting 49. Kittle, who's one of the heart and soul of your team, I called bullshit all week when they're like, not that, I mean, clearly he was hurt, but like, he might not play. Like, no way. He'll get shot up for this thing.
Yeah.
But then I think you respect him so much because you realize he's probably playing like 65%. I mean, he is going like this, but that play to work, I guess you could have put Dwelly in there, but it has to be a tight end, right? Because they're faking the blocking and then they go back. Like a receiver, the corner would stay with the receiver, and it wasn't Kittle's fault. Like Jimmy,
no, he was wide open.
It was just off. But this is where coaches go. Well, if this guy executes, and they'll be showing the film room. Well, they don't, Kyle. Right now, your guys are not executing for whatever reason. And Seattle, who is way better than you, and Arizona and the Rams, like, they're able to execute enough consistently over this first month where they can just get more points on the board. The Niners have just really struggled to put points on the board, touchdowns. And now if they're kicker, who knows? I mean, I guess you can just sign a kicker.
Yeah, who's out there?
I mean,
Grammatica? He's just doing commercials.
You could just sign some random guy. Honestly, I'd work with Mitch. Like, if he could do that, it'd be valuable to roster spot.
It would be huge. I don't know why more people don't try and get their punter to also be their kicker.
If I was Mitch, I'd be like, hey, if I can figure this out, could I double dip? I'm not going to ask for like $8 million, but would you guys be willing to give me like $5.5 million to do both?
1,000%. It's
that
really
might be an off-season project if I'm
1,000%.
I'm already kicking off. So if I kick off, punt, and kick field goals,
yep. There's no question.
If I was his agent, I would be like, hey man, I would look into this.
Like, you got something here. You got something, right? Like, you showed enough that maybe now, again, like, the margins are thin. You don't get a lot of opportunities.
No.
But Cam on YouTube says they need to sign this kicker named Tyler Rauza.
You heard of him?
Huh? You heard of him?
No, I never have. Have you?
Oh. I don't know anything about the guy.
I'm not up to date on my kicker short list.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a critical week for Kyle Shanahan. And when I say critical, I don't mean important. I mean, I think he's going to get criticized a lot this week. And there are a lot of different things you could pick out. Soapy on YouTube says, need to get the ball to Ayuk more. Offense feels so dependent on Debo and Juice. We seem to lack versatility. Ayuk, 1 catch for 15 yards. It was a nice play, but I thought this was going to be the most dynamic wide receiver group in the NFL this year.
Ayuk, how many catches does he have this year? Like 5? I mean,
well, what do you have? What do you have? 1 or 2 against the Lions?
No, he didn't play against the Lions. Remember?
He had the punt return against the Lions. Sorry, 1 or 2 against the Eagles.
I thought he just had the 1 against the Eagles in the corner. Maybe he had a couple last week.
Is he putting together Henry Ruggs' rookie season here?
Yeah, it is. It's a disaster right now.
He's got 5 catches.
Someone DM me, like, should he demand a trade? I'm like, well, I don't know if he quite has the juice to pull shit like that, but I can understand him being like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I got 6.
You got 6? Okay, so whatever. I just looked at ESPN.com.
Yeah, so he's got 2 of his last 3 games 1 for 6 today, 1 for 15. But he's not even getting targeted.
Right. I mean, can we get him some bubble screens or something?
Something, for the love of God.
Jet sweeps.
Oh my God.
Put your ball in the playmaker's hands.
Maybe Kyle's like, well, we give him the punt returns. I was like, yeah.
They gave him a couple, but they also gave a couple to Sanu. Right?
Yeah.
And then once they couldn't trust their return game and they needed a big play, Debo just made it look so normal. Like, yeah, this is what a kick return looks like. So, all right, what about Trey Lance? We're getting a lot of comments. Miguel Ruiz says, the question is, would Lance have gotten us scores if we'd played him in the first half when the D was dominating? Well, not based on the way he looked early in the second half. There's a debate, it seems like, going on right now about how good he was. And the people who say he looked good, I think, are relying on the end of the game when it really was kind of out of hand. When it mattered, not only did it not look good, but it looked like Shanahan didn't trust him very much, doesn't trust him very much.
Well, his first series, they did not throw the ball. They just ran, and then they punted. Second series, where it realized, like, we can't play our entire half doing this because Seattle's like, hey, guys, our highest paid player over here is a safety, but he might as well be a D tackle. You know, I mean, this guy's up near the line of scrimmage. We want you to run it, so I hope you run it. So Kyle's like, oh, let's pass it. Early on, when the game was still in the balance, he looked atrocious. There's no he settled in. He was over his head, looked like he hadn't played in the game. I mean, he looked like, historically, what you think rookie quarterbacks are going to play like. Here's the problem, guy. They traded 3 first-round picks for him. Their first-round pick they used on him, and then 2 other first-round picks. Like, they got to start working with him. I don't know what they're doing in practice, but it feels like they're just all in with Jimmy. And this goes back to Kyle with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like, you need to coach this guy up. Now, clearly, they don't have a choice now, especially if Jimmy's going to be out a couple weeks. They go, oh, Trey. Like, there's no going back and forth. To me, you just go all in with Trey, fucking figure it out, and learn through these reps. Like, he's going to be your quarterback. You've already invested all these picks, but pretty clear, you know. Now, we'll see once he gets a game plan. Still, it didn't look like he had a great feel for guys getting open. He couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
It did not look good.
No, it didn't. And the first throw of the game, I mean, I guess you could argue he settled in because it couldn't get worse than that throw to the flat. Which
running around is not
close.
Settled in, is it? Like, I just looked up. He was
no, I mean, I did think as the game went on, I mean, he had the ball in the flat. Whether he settled in or not, I thought part of what happened early in the game was that's what it looks like a lot of times when a rookie just steps in. It just so happens that he's stepping into that game in that moment when they really need him to be able to do more. That throw to the flat was them trying to get him an easy throw, and he missed very badly. Like, I don't know what he's going to be, but even if he's not a Pro Bowler, my guess is in his career he's better on that throw than he was in that moment.
You talking to the one that was like way behind? Was it
Yes.
Kittle or Dwelly?
Yeah, and so like my point is that's where the argument can be made.
It looked like Kaepernick. That did. That was
Yeah,
a
I mean,
Kaepernick
they were
type
more
play.
aggressive play calling with Colin early in his career than they were with Trey Lance today.
Yeah.
Then they had to get the ball down the field, and the ball's getting hit. It's not coming out. Now, maybe we'll get to the all-22, John, and it turns out that every Niners receiver was just covered the whole time, and everything was a coverage sack. But he's back there for 8 seconds. Not 8 seconds. But he's back there for a long time looking for somewhere to go with the ball and finding nowhere in the end. And but back to that first throw for a second. I think you could argue, let's see how this season plays out. But I think one of the things we'll look back on, I think you could say it right now, is like, does he look better right then week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks if he's just the guy that plays against the Lions, if he's just the guy that plays against the Eagles? Do you win those games if he's the guy that plays? You might not have. I don't know. It's easy to go back and
Probably
say
don't beat the Eagles the way that game was going.
I think the part of this is like, what does he look like next week if he's the quarterback against the Cardinals? What does he look like coming out of the bye? Because if he looks good, then I think you could definitely argue you would have had a better shot against Seattle if you had given Trey Lance live game reps before you had to play him. And this goes back to the preseason where I came out of that. You and I talked about it. Like, the one thing that was obvious about Trey Lance in the preseason was he needed to play in games. He needed to play. And I know I defended the inability to get him in the game because it's hard to get him in and the game dictates and play calls and blah, blah, blah. But regardless, I think we saw a guy today who needs game reps, and it's really hard. I'm not going to use the word unfair because I don't like that word, but it's really hard when these are your live game reps and it's time to go make plays. And your coach doesn't quite know what you're getting, and the defense is feeling itself against you because they feel like they can rattle you, and they're probably right. And that's just you're not set up for success.
Well, I think this is where it is unfair. His head coach went all in, and I saw Gottlieb tweet this out because Gottlieb's been defending some of these coaches because, a lot of these coaches, these guys are not ready. It's mainly been the Bears and the Niners. And it's like the only reason the fans are up in arms, they want to see the younger guy, is because you're not the Bears and the Niners are not rolling out fucking Alex Smith or Montana and Jay Cutler. They're rolling out Andy Dalton and Jimmy Garoppolo. If you roll out the equivalent of what Alex Smith was to Mahomes, no one has an issue with it. But when you roll out a starting quarterback who's not very good, people go, what's the point in waiting here? Especially when both teams traded a combined, not factoring in the picks they used, 3 total first-round picks. You know the Giants had the Bears' first-round picks? The Bears traded a first-round pick to get up there. The Niners traded 2 first-round picks to get up there. When you do a move like that, the fans, I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm at the gym, and I'm watching Wisconsin play Michigan. And offensive coaches, and Nagy's like it, they're all like this because they spend so much time with the quarterback. You go to these meetings with some of the quarterback, the offensive coordinators who are quarterback coaches. They kind of defend that position over everyone else. And I get it. Like, that's who they feel they're truly in the bunker with. Like, that is their guy on the field. I feel sometimes you get too close to it all. You can't see the big picture. And it's like no one gives a shit that Jimmy is incredible with the game plan Monday through Saturday. Or Dalton, you should see him in the film room. He can lead the group. That's great to your team and like your coaching staff. But your fans, your owner, your AD in college, like it's irrelevant. Like you can feed me a couple stories during the week and that'll keep me going. But at the end of the day, you get judged on the game. That is the game. So it's like Jimmy's not good enough to hold this guy off forever, clearly. And the problem is, though, they're putting in 0 time to this guy in the season because I know that he's admitted it. They're just all in, and that's how it works. And the problem is then, like, this happens, and it shows Jimmy clearly can go down at any moment. I don't know why would you think that because it happens every year.
I said it on the last show. Let's not forget this element of it all.
Crazy as I became kind of numb to it. Not numb to it. You just forget about it. You just think, oh, Jimmy's rolling again. And then all of a sudden, I immediately text you because he's with his hat off. I'm like, oh, my God, they benched him. And then they, of course, come in with the calf, which could they have benched him after that half? Probably not, but
would have been weird. The plays they ran out of halftime did not feel like it was. The plays they ran for Trey out of halftime did not feel like they just benched Jimmy, right? To me, you bench Jimmy, then you're about to do some shit.
100%.
And that's not what they did.
Because they're not ready to do some shit, guy.
No,
they haven't been working with this guy. And that's what I'm talking about. The whole thing with Kyle, and now Trey's thrown into this, which he clearly is swimming. He is swimming, and he was swimming today against one of the worst defenses in the league. That's one of the worst defenses in the league. Like, relative to what they're going to face with the Cardinals are better defense. With the Colts in a couple weeks, but now the thing is with Trey, why would you take him out of the driver's seat at this point in time?
Well, I think the thing that keeps him in the driver's seat is that what happened at the end of the game. You go, okay, he didn't look good today, but he looked better at the end than he looked at the beginning when he played, right? Because this goes, if I'm going to take your point about quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators and head coaches who are offensive guys defending their quarterback.
You agree with that statement? You talk with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to some OCs recently who kill the quarterback because they know what the quarterback's supposed to do. So, but I generally,
I guess it depends on their relationship. It depends on their relationship.
The part I agree with. The part I agree with is that they put a premium on knowing what to do. Like, who can I trust to know as much as I know about the offense?
Way more than fans and owners and ADs, right? They judge things that we can't quantify.
I think if you ever talk to a coach and you bring up like a storyline, their thing is always like, I'm just trying to win this week, right? And I think that's where the Niners have been. They've put themselves in this kind of weird middle ground where the goal is Super Bowl, but the roster, we could argue if it's a Super Bowl roster before the year, and you and I did, right? Like, okay, we think it's pretty good, but this does not look like a Super Bowl roster necessarily. And then you combine these like high expectations for what you think you're going to be, and this quarterback who's not actually good enough to carry you there, but he knows the offense well enough that you think, well, maybe we can get away with it. Maybe we can just get by with a quarterback who's not really dynamic enough to get us deep in the playoffs, or he's not dynamic enough to carry us to the playoffs if that's what we need. But he knows enough that I think I can mitigate my risk here and I can just hit all the right buttons because I'm the play caller. And as long as this guy just does what I tell him to do, we'll get to the playoffs. But it doesn't work that way necessarily because it's hard to just do what you're told to do once you're on the football field and the real things start happening. And so I think coaches get so focused on how do I win today? It's hard to go, well, if I play Trey Lance today, then he's better in 3 weeks. And then, yeah, maybe I lose a game that I otherwise would have won, but maybe the stuff that I can't control, the stuff that the player can do on his own, that's hard to predict. It's impossible to predict that stuff. That's what gets us there. Like, did the Niners get to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick because Colin just did what they told him to do? Or
No.
they got there because Colin just does some crazy stuff that's incredible, right? And
their defense was awesome. I mean,
their defense was awesome. Yeah. But the point is, I think coaches have a hard time going, if I play this guy now, he's not better today, but he might be better in a month. And that's worth the trade-off.
Yeah, and that's always the biggest where we.
And that would have been the argument to play Trey Lance against the Lions.
When I used to work in the office, the scout front office people talk like this. This was when Andy Reid was the coach, right? Let alone, it goes on in every building. Because scouts and front office people actually think much more aligned with the fan base than I think the coaching staff. They see the obvious. But these guys get caught up. My take would be, Kyle, I don't think you're fucking making the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, when you have the best first half of his season and he struggles to get 7 points on the board. I mean, it was just like the way he was playing. If you a playoff level quarterback, put 21 on the board. You were slicing and dicing on the field, but he can't execute when it matters. The point of the game is to score. Now, Trey clearly is several steps behind him, but can he live with? Can you be open-minded to figure out how to work with this guy and try to win games? You might not have a choice. I'm reading now that Shanahan said that Garoppolo got stepped on, couldn't plant off the leg. But, like, are you going to be trying to force a gimpy Garoppolo? Like, go all in with Trey. This is your meal ticket, Kyle. You're already under a huge contract. You've already traded the farm for this guy. Like, what's the point now? Like, he's got a long way to go, and he ain't learning anything in the fucking film room with Rich Scangarello eating pasta.
I mean, it's not that hard.
But it's like, I've heard that guy's not even that good of a coach. That's my thing. I question, like, his ability to coach. I just do. People with the Eagles were like, he was terrible. Now I'm watching him work with these guys. They're getting worse. Like, I judge coaches on what their players do. Simple, point blank, period, end of story. If your player sucks, you're not a good coach. If your player is good, I'm not talking like the highest end guys. I'm just watching the improvement of most of your guys. And they're just, none of them improve.
See, we disagree. I don't think Jimmy's gotten worse. I think this is what it is. He just hasn't gotten better.
I think Jimmy's gotten worse from where he was in 2019. Because when you don't improve, it just gets worse.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, but he hasn't gotten better. So if we call it a flat line and everybody else has gone this way, either way, it wasn't good enough then without that defense.
But he was way better in 2019 than he is now.
Yeah. I don't know if he was way better. He was better. They were better, I think. But regardless, I don't know that there's anything that can be done for Trey Lance in the film room. He's got to play football. The only way he's getting better at this point is Trey Lance been watching film for 2 years. He's played one football game.
I know.
The only way for Trey Lance to get better is to play football games.
That's my thing when people push back. Like, what do you want? These guys are overwhelmed. Well, it's like, they ain't getting – practices are now a joke, a complete joke. I heard Wickersham tell, I think, Bill Simmons a story about, like, when they were arguing in 2011 and John Morrow was like, we cannot take away the OTA and the training camp practices from our coach. Our coaches and GMs are going to snap. And Bob Kraft was like, hold up. They work for us. Who gives a shit? And that's how, then everyone's like, yeah, he's right. And then they did a deal. That's why that was the holdup. Like, yeah, the rules are the rules now. You don't really practice anymore. You do much more mental reps. So the guys that have practiced and played a lot have huge advantages. So the only way for Trey to get better is going to be to play. Because to just assume that, like, if he didn't play all season long and Jimmy just went about and they won 8 or 9 games and they just scratch and clawed their way of toughness and grit and a couple plays here and there, that he would look that much different next year, to me, would be a false premise to go off of. Because it could be a huge learning curve for him next year when he actually had to play. I'm not saying he wouldn't benefit from sitting, and there would be some incremental learning process to his brain and just feeling the game. But there's no guarantee that he'd just be like a Ferrari in Kansas City and just hit the ground running.
Yeah, and clearly, like, look, Patrick Mahomes had been starting a lot of football games. Patrick Mahomes
years
had played
in
a
the
lot
Big
of
12.
football in college.
Yeah.
All this theoretical learning. Trey Lance been doing a lot of theoretical learning. That's not going to get it done, particularly for a guy who part of the reason you drafted him is because of the stuff he can do outside of whatever theory you teach him. Right now, all you need for him to do is the basic theory stuff. But I think what's key is if you decide Jimmy Garoppolo is not good enough to get to the playoffs, and I think we can decide that, we've decided that, then you can't wait until it's all gone to go to Trey Lance.
Yeah. You've
got to get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that he will this week. If Jimmy can play, I wouldn't shock me if Garoppolo's the starting quarterback.
And this goes back to the way you just described the coaches. It can be a huge fatal flaw for these guys. It's always been one of Belichick's greatest strengths is like he can see the short and the long. Most coaches, and definitely Kyle falls into that. Kyle is obsessed with tomorrow right now. He's just obsessed with it. It's like, Kyle, you're the boss of this fucking franchise. Like this is what's scary about naming coaches the grand poobah of everything and making everyone in the building answer to them. Because like Belichick and Andy can balance everything. Like they've been doing it forever. They're not as obsessed with like tomorrow, even though they are, right? But they can also see like 3 weeks from now. Like they can see Kyle's still in this kind of proving himself phase, as any coach at 41 years old would be. Sean McVay, all these guys are. That it's like he would be obsessed with this week, as he should be. But I'm with you. If Jimmy's healthy, I'd be stunned if he didn't go back to Jimmy, and that's 100% the wrong move. And he might just get lucky that Jimmy's calf doesn't enable him to do it. But then what if he's ready after the bye and he goes back? This is where
then it depends what happens against the Cardinals, right? Alex Smith stayed on the bench because Colin Kaepernick was good enough to keep him there.
And they were a winning team though. Like the Niners at 2-3. But I could see Kyle always get back to 500, 3-3. We just get rolling again.
If it's 2-3,
that to me is his mindset, pretty clearly.
Yeah, Trey's got to break him out of it. He did enough to get himself drafted by him. He's got to do enough to get himself.
I also think this is, this guy's paid a lot of money too, and does have a lot of juice, even though he's not the ultimate decision maker. Where, this guy's a badass. Like John Lynch, this is, you got to have some uncomfortable conversations with your coach. But it's hard. You can't tell him who to play. One, you don't even have that. It's not your authority to do it. But can you influence him? Can you have a productive conversation? Because that's for the betterment of the franchise.
I let you talk me into drafting him. I wanted Mac.
That's what scares me, guy, about giving coaches too much juice.
Yeah. I mean,
they've proven it.
Today, tomorrow, the thing that matters more than anything else is not who he chooses to play quarterback this week. It's that he develops Trey Lance to be a starting quarterback.
Well, Trey's not developing right now without playing.
Yeah. I'm just saying, that is the most important thing that happens.
Yeah.
Over this year, next year.
Unless he demands a trade to Kirk Cousins this offseason.
Trey Lance for Kirk Cousins?
No, I'm saying Kyle Shanahan demands a trade to Minnesota.
Yeah. Me, Raheem Mostert for just every defensive player on their roster and all their picks. That's basically what the trade would be. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people we might be hot, but we're comfortable thanks to our friends at Overland. Welcome to the pod, overland.com/ham. Overland.com/ham.
Look at this.
Oh, that's good. That's it. You've got the one with those are good. Those will get you to the trash can and back very quickly. I got my Overland slippers on as well. Overland, a family-owned American heritage brand. It's put comfort and quality first for nearly 50 years. They had us go to the website, overland.com/ham. They said, pick out some comfy, luxurious Overland sheepskin slippers. So that's what we did. And I've been wearing mine around the house, to the garage, up and down the stairs for the last week or so. And I love them. They're fantastic.
Well, the thing with these guys, you can wear, I want to go throw away the trash. Got to walk outside. Boom. Don't even need to change my shoes because I got the slippers. Work inside, work outside. Fantastic. They got a nice base here. They're warm. The warmth, they're comfortable. These things, I'm not just saying this because they're paying me to. I had Uggs for a long period of time. Threw those bad boys away. All in on the overland.com/ham slippers, guy. They are fantastic.
One of the things that sets Overland apart, John, is they're one of the only brands that uses a true double-faced sheepskin. So the suede you see on the outside is the same piece as the fluffy sheepskin you feel on the inside. So it's lighter. These are very light, more breathable. No synthetic materials are touching your feet, and it's top quality materials. So you're going to feel great. You're going to look good. You're going to be very comfortable. If you could use these kind of have like I feel like I'm walking on air with these things. So I don't know if yours have that.
Like an Air Max, but a slipper.
Yeah. They're a great gift. No-brainer gift. 100% satisfaction guarantee. Committed to customer service. It's exceptional. Free shipping, free returns and exchanges. So don't wait another day. Slip into the way more comfortable, the best, the lightest quality sheepskin slippers you can get on the market. Go to overland.com/ham. I'm clicking around on the YouTube. Overland.com/ham. Free shipping, free returns. Get them today. They're beloved by us.
Yep. Overland.com/ham.
Overland.com/ham. Podcast also brought to you by our friends at Puesto, John. We had a few people send us some pictures from their Puesto trips at Levi Stadium. I had a lot of people after we posted some photos of our trip to the Puesto location in Concord the other day reach out, DMs, and go, that place is pretty legit, isn't it? Like, yeah. So I think we're kind of late to this. You and I are kind of late to this Puesto party because
I agree.
I can see why people love it.
I had several people in my life once I posted that either one say, I've been there, that not only lived up the hype, that place is fantastic, almost like a gem, even though it's not really a gem, but part of, COVID.
What do you mean it's not a gem?
Well, I just mean like it's enormous. Like if you see it, like it's like a hole in the wall gem. I mean, the restaurant is fantastic. It's big. It's like a legit, you could take a lot of people. You could throw a party there. It is. And then I had other people DM me like, God, I've heard about that place. How good is it? I'm like, I can't recommend it enough. We had several tacos, margaritas, the atmosphere, the size of the restaurant, the bar setup is enormous. Like it is large. You got a lot of space. The bar is really cool. Ton of tequilas up there on that little wraparound bar thing they got up top. It's really cool. But again, the tacos are just delicious. And as someone took a picture and included us today, Section 110, Section 129, the house that Jed built, Levi Stadium. Some say Harbaugh, who's actually his team's on fire right now.
5-0?
Yeah. So, yeah, check it out right now. Puesto. Go get yourself some tacos. There's one in Santa Clara for those of you that live in Southern California. I was going to say Petco Park, but they probably don't have games there anymore.
Closed now.
They're not in the playoffs. When Bochy's there next year, you can go support and go get your tacos.
Yep. Mission Valley, which is in San Diego. They got how many San Diego? La Jolla, Irvine, Huntington Beach, another Irvine location, Anaheim, plus Santa Clara.
For those of you on the YouTube looking at as Guy scrolls, look at the size of their restaurants. I mean, the real estate in which they put their restaurants in is fantastic.
Yes. I was stunned when we walked in there. Like,
me too. Oh. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how did I not? I live 5 minutes away.
Eric and Alex, the Adler brothers, we appreciate them hooking us up with a great meal the other day, and we will happily be going back. I do recommend the quesabirria taco, by the way, which is the crispy melted cheese, the braised short rib, the salsa, pickled radish, the guacamole. If you get the big guacamole that has the Parmigiano Reggiano chunks just thrown in there, highly recommend that. But send us pictures of Puesto. It's delicious. If you already know about it, then you're thinking we're telling you something you already know. And if you don't know about it, you'll thank us for going. So Puesto, go peep it. All right, so Jimmy Garoppolo. Not just Jimmy Garoppolo, but look around the division right now. Not a newsflash to anybody, but Matthew Stafford wasn't great against the Cardinals, but just beat the Bucs a week ago. Kyler Murray some of the plays that Russell Wilson makes, Kyler can make. And then there's Russell, when we saw what he did today. So they have the worst quarterbacking situation right now in the division, period.
By a wide margin. Russell, his stats, if you just go to his ESPN.com box score, it doesn't look great. He didn't throw for 200 yards. For most of the game, they were going 3 and out. But what happened when it mattered, he made incredible throws. He also had the running touchdown where I thought Kinlaw tore both of his quads. It's like, whoa. He's running. He can't even pick up his knees.
He gave everything he had for that play.
In fairness, if you were standing there and watched the size of that human run by, he was probably moving relatively fast. But yeah, this is ultimately why they made the trade. Kyle acknowledged it's a quarterback league. You need a top 5 quarterback. You need a top 10 quarterback just to compete, and they did not have one. And I do think if Jimmy stayed healthy, they would keep rolling with him. He's not good enough. It's just that simple. Like, him alone is not good enough. He can make some good throws when the plays are perfect for him. He can execute the offense kinda. But one thing we've really seen through 4 games, 1 through 4th, the first through the 4th quarter, he can't sustain it. He can't maintain it. And then when he flips a switch, in this game, it actually went the other way. Started fast, then kind of ended slow by the half. But when he does like play his best, it's just not good enough. Like, he can't just throw like 21 points on the board. That's the thing with Russell. Now, obviously, Russell's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when now it's my time. So boom, 21 points. And like in 4 possessions, you're like, holy shit. Or Kyler, you just look at the box score, he's making plays happen. Stafford. Like, the Niners don't have that. And clearly Trey is a long way away from that. But and if you do not get good quarterback play in the NFL, you have no chance to win. It's just really that simple against decent to above average teams. And coming into this game, Seattle, where they ranked in like every statistical category, wasn't great. Like, it turns into a Seattle game. But
right.
Like the Seattle game, the team that was coming in was not 2014 crew, right? Now they still have, their quarterback is dramatically better than he was then when they had better teams. So they are a flawed team. And they still are flawed, like when you watch them, they have some issues. But he's remarkable. And he'll kill you.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that happened with Garoppolo was that his best year came in a year when he played with by the end of the year, I think maybe statistically it wasn't a top 2 defense, but it felt like a top 2 defense for most of the season.
It just depends. I think historically a lot of people have ranked the defenses based on yards. I think that's pretty stupid. Scoring defense forever would be the way I would do it.
But he played on a team with a top, however you want to define it. It was one of the best, a top tier, a tier 1 defense in the NFL, and a tier 1 running game in the league, right?
Yeah.
And that was his best year. And you can do that sometimes. Sometimes it all comes together, and you've got that, and it's great, and that's the ideal. But most teams you put together aren't ideals. And I think even when you watch the Chiefs, you see like there's a reason they signed Patrick Mahomes to a contract that's going to pay him for eternity in all likelihood, right? It's a 10-year deal that'll probably get extended before it. I bet Mahomes gets extended before he gets to year 6 of that contract. Like, he's going to get extended halfway through this contract that he's got. And the reason is that even with a really good, we think a Hall of Fame coach, Andy Reid, and really good skill guys around him like Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, there just are going to be times, the majority of the times, your quarterback has to do things above and beyond, because most years your team can't be built with a top 5 run game and a top 5 defense. It just doesn't, it's hard to do that. Your quarterback's the guy you pay. He's around for 8 to 12 years, and he's your constant. And sometimes he's got to elevate you, and sometimes you can help him. But if you're going to have a year with a top 5 defense and a top 5 run game, that's going to be an outlier year. That's just how it goes.
Well,
it's an outlier year.
They allowed under 20 points that season, and only 7 other teams did. So they were, beside that year, the Patriots somehow had like an incredible scoring defense. They allowed 14 points in 2019, Brady's last season. Most of the other defense, the good ones, were like 18 or 19 points. That was the Niners were right there. And you watch them right now, that's just not what they are. Mainly they have a fatal flaw. Like, you can throw on either corner. So they're going to give up points. To me, if they were going to be a good team, they would have to play a little bit like Seattle plays, right? Or Kansas City. Like, okay, shootout time. Like Kansas City early on today, it was like, okay, yeah, you want to get in a shootout? We're good. We don't think your quarterback can get in a shootout. Oh, he threw a pick. Mahomes will be fine. And what did they do? They just kept firing. Now, you could still run the ball. Like, there were times, even when they fell down, like, I guess 21-7, you're looking at the clock. I think there was 3 minutes left in the third quarter. I'm like, you can still run. You just need to get a drive here to score some points. And let's face it, they got pretty lucky with the collegiate level blown coverage. The Jamal's pointing at him. It was hard to tell. I mean, only Ken Norton and Pete would truly know, and Jamal, like, whose responsibility that was when he just stopped and Debo just catches the ball.
Yeah.
Like, so when it's back to,
it's like, how does Debo get that open? It's like, I mean, something that won't happen 10 more times if they ran that play 11 more times.
But that doesn't happen very often in the NFL. It's just a freak play, and that's That's what it took for the game to even feel a lot.
Felt like
closer
Debo
than it
was
really
running
was.
like 117 yards to get to the end zone on that play.
That's where. Did you see the shot of Kyle? Like he turned around like at like the 30-yard line. And
He was like, whatever. Yeah. You talking about that? Like Debo ran by him and Kyle just, he wasn't going to do the Lane Kiffin run down the sideline, throw the play
But that's
sheet.
where when people go, Trey, he actually didn't look that terrible. Like, yeah, well, I mean, one of his touchdowns is a complete luck like that. So the score
Yeah, I
was
mean,
a lot closer.
I don't think you could box score scout it. I think you'd have to say as the game went on, he at least, yeah, no, I didn't think it looked good. I'm not going to say it looked good.
Yeah, he didn't. He looked bad. But to me, Jimmy looked good for Jimmy standards, but they don't score any points.
But then he looked, but then the high throws to Kittle, high throws to Ayuk, an interception in negative territory, plus territory, I guess, for the Seahawks. Like that is, you have to plan your day around that. Just like you parents have to plan a road trip around having to stop for the kid to use the bathroom. If the GPS tells you 3 hours, you're not going to get there in 3 hours because your kid's been guzzling milk for the last 20 minutes before you get into the car seat. You just know that. You just got to know you're not getting a perfect game. You're just not. You are getting an interception on 3rd and 1. You are just, it's happening. It's happening. A tip ball, something. It's happening.
Yeah, I think this is one of those. We can talk players all we want. I keep going back like this is the coach, man. He makes all this money, and he's thought of in these circles, and we've been talking about him for so long of being one of the top guys. Like, figure it out. It's a hard.
Well, of course, but this conversation is about Jimmy. I mean, I agree with you, but it's not just that. Like,
I know, but you have to figure out ways to like put him in somewhat conducive situations.
See, I agree with you, but I would go even bigger. Like, it's not about the figure out the play calling with Jimmy. It's about how come Jimmy hasn't gotten better in the last 2 years.
Well, I mean, I think part of it, and this is a theory I've always had on Wentz, I do think when we can make fun of practices, and when I'm making fun of practices, it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Like, I understand, like, me, you, and random people. Like, an NFL practice is still not easy, but relative. Like, Brady and Rodgers have talked about this. It's a different world than it was 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. And things progress. I get that, but a huge part of football is practice, and they don't really practice that anymore. I think when you get injured a lot, and this happened to Carson Wentz over like 3 years during the season, because I do think you improve a lot during the season. You just look at the way Brady, if you ever have met someone, I would imagine most people listening to this have not, but like someone who spent any time around a Brady or a Manning, their work ethic, and I mean, if you've listened to this, you've probably seen like stories and some documentary type stuff on there. They don't give up a rep in practice, how serious they take every period. Like that is their time, like Tiger Woods on the range, like in his prime. I would imagine that would have been a sight to behold in like 03. You're just like, hey guy, you want to go watch this fucking Tiger, train on the golf course for 8 hours? It would just be locked in, razor focused, just doing everything perfectly because your habits then carry over to the game. And I just think when you are injured, which he's injured a lot, and it goes back to Carson Wentz, you don't get to practice. So without practice, it's like we're playing golf on Tuesday. No one in the group has practiced, so it's like, who cares? But like where it gets frustrating, golfing at least, is when if you spend like several times, like legit range sessions, you go, okay, I think I figured something out. And then you go to the course and it kind of drives you nuts. No different than a player. You work on things throughout the week in practice. Like the Bosa brothers, they don't just they genetically have been given some special things from God and their genetics from their dad. But like the moves they have as pass rushers, like that is worked on and honed in through years of practice. Like Trent Williams is given God-given talent, but like his sets, his arm placement and everything, he hones that in with practice. And I just think Jimmy, I mean, I don't have the numbers, but the Niners would. How many practices he's missed in the last 4 years? Like that's a lot of. How many practices has Tom Brady truly missed in like 20 years? Or Peyton over his career. Sometimes clearly
Tom's probably missed less than Jimmy has. If we just did the raw total,
I would imagine so.
I mean, he did miss a year, but
07 or whatever, 08.
Yeah, I mean, so did Jimmy. Jimmy's missed years. So,
but Tom just never like has a quad injury where he has to miss the week of practice like Jimmy does. And that's how you fall behind.
Yeah, well, and just not getting like you bring up the golf analogy. I was thinking about it like several I think it was this year. It was this year. Several months ago, I got a golf lesson, like a good one. Like dialed some things in. Haven't had another. So do I just get to go out on Tuesday and just stack everything I did then 6 months ago on top of? No, I'm back to square one, trying to remember what it was.
Yep.
Right. And yeah, you don't get this. I think the stacking is so critical. Just stacking a little incremental. And there's been no incremental. But even then, like I think even at his best, even when he was consistently on the field, there's just been a little element of just some looseness.
This is the
right?
conversation, though, of average quarterbacks. I mean, I think we would have these with 10, kind of Andy Dalton style. There's a group. It changes every couple years, right? Because guys become backups, right? Or guys' career ends. But Fitzpatrick, is a polarizing guy for years. Jimmy just was in this weird little spot in the quarterback hierarchy where he's just the most polarizing. But he's not as good as good players get polarizing, right? Derek, Cousins, guys that are better than Jimmy are also just, you kind of go back and forth. But like Kyle would give his left nut for that guy over.
He tried.
Yeah, he tried.
He's tried many times to get another quarterback. Like we know that he agrees with us because he's tried to get other quarterbacks.
But now he has.
Times.
Now he's pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Like he has Jimmy's replacement.
Right.
So there is no, you can throw Jimmy over the boat at the end of this season. And I think it's an injury like this, like trade value. Like I think you probably just end up cutting
that conversation is over.
Yeah. So you're just going to toss him out about March 1st when Jimmy quote unquote officially is released or whatever. But like your quarterback room, Jimmy will leave, but like it is what it is. Now maybe you bring in if Matt Ryan's released or something like an older guy to help, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the guy that you have needs to have a similar skill set to Trey Lance's skill set, right? So it can really help him. Like if you're going to have Trey Lance be your starting quarterback, your backup probably should have a similar skill set. Those guys are hard to find. But, I mean, that's how I would view it. Yeah. Like, I don't know that Matt Ryan is Trey Lance's, but, like, I don't know. Maybe it helps. I mean, I would take Matt Ryan as a backup quarterback. There's no question. But
he's probably not good. They need him. He's their quarterback. So that's a bad example. Like
I understand what you're saying. You're just saying an older player who is still solid but accepts being a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Tobin says Cam Newton. As the backup.
No chance.
49ers are in last place in the NFC West, 2-2. And the bad news for the 49ers is that the NFC West is as good as we said it was going to be. Every team in their division now has done a thing more impressive than anything they've done. The way that Seahawks played against them, you could say, for the Seahawks. The way the Rams played last week against Tampa. The way the Cardinals played this week against the Rams. Like each one of those teams, not only are they higher in the standings, but each one of them has shown to have a higher ceiling at some point or another than the 49ers have shown this year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're clearly the worst team in the division. Eye test, watch all four of them. It's not even close. Arizona, to do what they did today is you got to give them a hat tip. I talk a lot of shit about Cliff. I don't think he's ever won a meaningful game before today. I mean, maybe like Texas Tech, Oklahoma State or something, but for the most part, no one ever cared. And when he had to win his biggest games in the NFL last year, he lost, right? And that was the reason he missed the playoffs. Today was big on the road, and I didn't watch any of it, but every time I checked the score, he was kicking their ass. So they are clearly, and that's who the Niners got to play. And like you said, the Rams and Seattle just beat them. And Seattle, like, they're 2-2, but their two losses, they had commanding lead against Tennessee. Like, I mean, they were up 31 to.
Who lost to the Jets today?
True, but they were missing A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. Like, they had, if you go 4-14 or whatever, 4-13, you're going to win a game every month, right? The Jets might win. If they win 4 games, they're going to win. They're going to beat some random teams. Like, you lose to a bad team, right? A good team does. Tampa.
Yeah, I'm not blaming them I'm not blaming the Seahawks for the Titans losing to the Jets.
But Seattle's the third. Is clearly to me the third best team of the group.
I agree.
Right? They are pretty flawed. Like the Niners aren't even in the same stratosphere as those other two teams right now. And to me, the only hope you have this Sunday is they overlook you.
Yeah, they're 4-0. They're feeling themselves.
And that's a reflection of you. Like
but can you score? Because they score. Like they scored 38 against it. They also played Tennessee, just like Seattle did. And they kicked their ass on the road. Then they played Minnesota, who beat Seattle. And they beat them. I got lucky, but they beat them. Then they played Jacksonville, beat them. They played the Rams, blew them out. Like they've got 3, I don't know if you'd call them blowout wins, but runaway wins of their 4 wins. Arizona.
Yeah.
And the other one that was 34-33. Are the Niners going to score 33?
No.
Are they going to hold them to 22? Are they going to hold them to 28? Are they going to hold them under 30? Because if they do, it's the best defensive effort against the Cardinals this year.
Well, here's the problem, guy, is that they can't defend the pass. And right now the Cardinals passing game, like AJ Green's good. I thought he was going to be terrible. He's good. Hopkins we know is good. Christian Kirk. Right today, when you really DK Metcalf was kicking their ass. Lockett got the 1 PI, but it was DK Metcalf. It wasn't like the two-headed monster. I would guess if you asked Tyler Lockett today after the game, players don't admit this to the media, but if you 70%, no means those two guys came in, and let's say DK's 90. It's not like you got them both at 98. That would have been terrifying. And that's why I think they were a little thrown off early, because they wanted to maybe avoid having those guys carry them and hand the ball off. And then it didn't really work, and then they couldn't get a rhythm. But, as the game went on, what did they realize? Why don't we just throw go routes? That's what I do. You see what Rodgers was doing? That's the problem. You are in a division that they will throw go routes, all these teams, nonstop, and that is your weakness. Think about that. Your number one weakness is kind of what all these teams have no problem doing. Rodgers, at the end of that game, was just every play was just a straight route. I mean, he was just lobbing it up.
I also worry from the Niners standpoint that their defense is going to be in these positions where so much is on them. And they're playing these teams like Kyler, like Russell today, who can make these back-breaking plays. And that's just a lot of stress to sustain over 4 quarters, right? It's one thing if you know your team doesn't score, but you're playing these other teams that aren't really dynamic. And so you can kind of, even if you miss on a play, even if you let the quarterback slip through your fingers, he's not going to turn that play into a 30-yard run or a touchdown throw. But with the Seahawks and with the Cardinals specifically, it's very stressful because you can be good on 38 of 40 plays, and those other 2 plays can be touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they hit DK, and Mosley catches up and knocks the ball away. Well, great, but they're going to take another shot, and then they're going to take another shot, and then Russ is going to break out of a sack and throw a touchdown pass. And there's no, we've got them in a bottle today. There's no – you got Arizona held to 10 points at halftime. It doesn't mean Arizona's not going to score 34 that day, right? And just explode in the second half. And that's a lot of stress, I think, for a defense. If they don't think they're off, if they feel like if we get behind, our offense cannot catch us back up.
This is where it gets weird, bro. This happened to my guy Nagy over the last, even before this year. When your head coach is an offensive, and Kyle is much highly thought of even over the last couple years than Matt Nagy, that your head coach can figure it out and you're just watching the offense. You're like, what is going on here? And your defense eventually goes, well, what else can we do? Because you go, well, you guys gave up 28 points. Well, did we? Because one of them happened when Cannon muffed and then fumbled. That ain't on us. So that's just 21. And then the first half, we were getting you off the field and you didn't put up any points. So you start getting this internal, like in basketball, your offense is your defense, and your defense is your offense. It's all the same players. But in football, it's weird, right? Because it's the same
and
team.
we forced a punt after you threw the pick in our own territory.
It's the same team, but if at the end of the day, when Kyle gets the team, and he goes, guys, this is not going to be good enough to beat. We got 5 more games in this division. We got to step it up. And Fred Warner has got to be thinking well, fuck, I was making every other tackle. Not my fault. And that's not the way to be as a team guy. And I'm not saying he even thinks like that, but it goes, I can't do anymore. Like, I'm doing everything. I'm working my ass off. I'm getting here early. I'm leaving late Monday through Saturday. I'm laying it all out on the field. Kittle's like, I can't feel my knee or my calf right now, coach. I was blocking and catching balls. Like, well, what more can we do?
And we'll see what happens with Trent Williams.
This gets to the thing of when your best player, it's one thing when your best player's like, just kind of half-assing or whatever. That is not the problem right now for the Niners. Like, it feels like their best players are laying it all out there on the line. Debo's like, I'm getting killed on every other throw over the middle. What are we doing here, coach? That's what I can just see it getting weird in the future here if when the offense doesn't score. Because you go, well, coach, it's your deal here.
Yeah.
And now because you start getting to these games, it's like it's Kyle versus McVay. It's Kyle versus Cliff. That is kind of the way it's, set up.
Yeah, but it doesn't who's a better football coach, Urban Meyer or Cliff Kingsbury?
If I had to have a guy coach my NFL team, I'd rather have Cliff Kingsbury.
Just who's a better? I mean, it didn't matter. Like Cliff's team is better. Urban would have beat Cliff with Cliff's team.
I see. I don't know if he's quite made for the pros.
He might not be, but I think he would have beat him with his team. I think his team is. I mean, the Jags or the Cardinals roster, like the quarterbacks, like one day Trevor Lawrence, but right now today, my point is just like your quarterbacks. Even if one team's coach is a little better, if the other guy's got the better quarterback, he might beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Cardinals. Kyler's been giving people headaches since the moment he stepped on the field.
Well, I mean, that game's a good example. Are we sure that the Rams have the better quarterback in that matchup?
No.
Yeah. We're not.
But they got a better quarterback than the Niners. It's
by a mile.
This isn't like a menage a trois game. You don't get to tag in and then play them. Like they play them and you play them. Yeah. And what they did against them only matters if you beat them.
You know that Seattle, LA is the Thursday night game?
I think you said that on the last pod. So
in Seattle.
So LA's kind of got.
And Seattle's got to be feeling a little better. Get a home game now. You win that. You're like, okay, we're alive again.
Christian on YouTube says, no Trent Williams against Chandler Jones is far from ideal. Did somebody catch on the broadcast? Because Trent Williams got carted off the field, right?
I think his body went into full cramp and he couldn't walk.
But I thought that Shannon Spake, when she did her halftime update, coming out of the locker room, said that Trent got carted onto the field for the second half. I could be wrong about that, but I thought she said he got carted on.
Wouldn't shock me. Cart him back.
Just less,
I don't think it's that crazy, I guess is my point, if you just want to let the IVs, all the fluids.
Yeah, just big man. We don't want him walking. We're going to save every ounce of his energy. But I don't know. I not having him against the Arizona Cardinals, against anybody, would be a major
according to
problem.
Kyle Shanahan, Trent Williams' shoulder is concerning. So I think it's a shoulder injury. That'd be a problem.
It is a problem. Yeah. Period. It's a problem. Whether he's clear to play or not, it's a problem.
I mean, if it's a serious injury, it's a devastating blow.
Yeah, I'm saying it's devastating even if he can play. He's clearly not 100% or close to it.
You thought he got hurt a little before he even came.
Well, there were 2 plays before he came out of the game. You could tell something was off. Trey ended up rolling out right. They never showed the replay. They went straight to a Fox promo. So I'd have to go back and watch it. But something happened.
Someone tweeted at me, Middlecoff, probably a Red fan. Do you think the @NFL will show Trent getting thrown to the ground on the last play instead of all of his pancakes? And I wonder if his shoulder was all fucked up and he got taken out, someone ran him over because he had no power in that thing. And that's why, when he walked off holding that left arm, I went, I've been watching football long enough to know that is not a good sign. Right?
If it's not a quick pop in, pop, and he comes back in, then it's a problem, right?
Yeah. Because if you have, I have a little brother who's got a labrum tear.
Yeah.
And he's a golf addict, so he didn't want to get surgery because it'll take, 3 or 4 months.
He's in season, yeah.
Yeah. So he's just got to time it right in November. He'd come back in March.
Right.
There's a lot of pain. I think you need the power. And his came from just trying to lose weight doing push-ups in some workout classes.
Ooh. Yeah, that's why you get down to the knees. Don't be a hero.
Yeah.
Even push-ups on your knees, Jeff, or push-ups. They're better than the push-ups you don't do. I'll put it that way. Several other things to get to here, John. Before we go any further, though, let's tell the people, go to sleepnumber.com/ham right now. I know it's going to be hard for a lot of you, or some of you, if you're Raider fans, you're sleeping pretty good right now before Monday Night Football. But proven quality sleep, John, it helps boost energy, recovery, well-being. When your brother Jeff finally gets that labrum surgery, he's going to need, doctors are going to say, don't forget, Jeff, you're going to need sleep. You're going to need sleep. It's going to help your body heal. Sleepnumber.com/ham.
Yep. We've been Sleep Number users for a long time. I use 30, you use 60. You like it hard, I like it soft. Here's the key. You just go to sleepnumber.com/ham and you save up to $800 on a Sleep Number 360 smart bed. Guy and I have both had Sleep Number beds now for years. Look how much energy we have. Look how good we look if you're watching us on YouTube. We sleep better, we feel better, we play better, we work better. It changes our life. You think I'm joking, but I'm not at all. A better night's sleep is a more productive John Middlecoff.
No question about it. Get those 7 to 9. That's what Brady gets. Proven quality sleep, life-changing. Starts with the Sleep Number adjustability. Like John said, save up to $800 on Sleep Number 360 smart beds for a limited time, plus special financing, only at Sleep Number stores or sleepnumber.com/ham. Subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required for that special financing. See sleepnumber.com for details. All right, several other things. Obviously, we're recording this. Sunday Night Football is underway.
Tom broke the record.
Did they stop the game?
No.
Yeah.
I think they did something on the promo, on the deal. I saw Schefter tweeted earlier there was going to be no pause, but there would be an acknowledgement. You see Robert Kraft, before Tom made it to the locker room, was down in the bowels of the stadium.
I did not see that.
And hugged him.
Yeah. Is that more or less appropriate than Shady McCoy wearing a Eagles jersey but cheering for the Chiefs on the sideline?
Well, he did play for the Chiefs. I was more shocked that he was on the sideline. Like, how did he get the sideline access?
Why?
Just because they're very serious about. It's not college, right? You can't just have
unlimited
former players don't
numbers.
just get to hang out on the sideline, right? I think he was supposed to make his way up to a box, kind of slow played it, and then worked his way. I don't blame him.
Put the jersey on so people would think he was on the team. That'd be genius. Put on the shoulder pads and the pants and just kind of sneak in. Dallas, we talked a lot about that Dallas-Carolina game. Dallas looks legitimate.
Carolina doesn't look bad. I mean,
no. I think I'm with you. I thought that game was more about Dallas looks good than Carolina looks bad.
I wonder, and I'm not trying to play Monday morning quarterback, but I think this sometimes when I watch the guy make some plays, is that there is a chance that Sam Darnold was this incredible distressed asset. He was the 3rd overall pick. He was a very young player. Remember when he came in the league? I think him and Juju were the same year, and he was like 20, and Juju was 19, and Juju immediately was the youngest player in the league, and everyone's like, don't forget, Sam's also one of the youngest players in the league. Like, these guys were babies coming in the league. The difference, though, is like Juju clearly has some maturity issues. I think they caught him on camera saying it was Ben's fault today as they were getting smoked. And I'm not saying that's immature. I mean, that's probably a fact. But I do think that Sam was like this guy that there was some risk involved. He threw a bunch of picks, but it was easy to go, God, the Jets were a train wreck. Their coach was so toxic, no one would touch him. These articles were coming out like he wasn't just – coaches can be weird. This guy was like a bizarro weirdo. And what if Sam Darnold actually is just this young guy that you can still mold and go to the 49ers? Like, could they have gotten him for just a second-round pick?
Well, they could have.
And just gotten rid of Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, their quarterback situation feels like it'd be better right now today if Sam Darnold was their quarterback. Now, Trey Lance might turn out to be worth the investment. But like right now, this second today, Sam Darnold's better than what the Trey Lance we saw on the field against the Seahawks, and he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, Sam Darnold was dramatically better than Trey Lance at 21 years old. Sam Darnold was a better quarterback.
He went to USC. So he's better than him several steps of the way.
Yeah.
Now, he may not be a better – well, again, I'm not saying that that's destiny.
And
but you're right.
49ers aren't the only teams that just fall. Like several teams, he was clearly – people were like off the scent on him, and I was just I think Carolina might go back like, God, we just got our franchise quarterback. Now, when I say franchise, Is he ever a top 8 quarterback? Maybe not, but I do think he can get in that sweet spot like 9 to 15. Now, that's not the ideal spot to be in. That's the polarizing group that we talk about. But he might be the best version of that polarizing group, and you'd be all right.
He's good enough athletically that you can do things with him that you can't add any layer to another quarterback who's in that 13 to 20 range if they're not athletic enough to do other things. He rushed for, I think, 2 touchdowns today. Let me check the stats. At least one. Yeah, he
accounted for 4 touchdowns. He rushed for 2. He threw for 2. He threw 2 picks.
But to me, his offensive coordinator, part of this is if he ended up somewhere else, if he ended up in Houston, right? If he ended up in Indy, I don't know. But there are other places he might have.
Today, I saw.
I know he had 1 completion and 2 picks at one point.
It was raining.
But maybe this is Joe Brady's, audition tape for his head coaching job. Because when I watched them on offense today, on the parts of that game that I watched, I thought they looked like, they were just doing different things. And Sam's athleticism is a big part of that. So, yeah, John, we talked about it the other day. And this is the capital I, capital if on Trey Lance. This wasn't supposed to be a Trey Lance conversation, but since it went there, I think it's a good point. If it does not work out with him, it will be the story of Kyle Shanahan will be that there were several quarterbacks out there to be had, some that weren't to be had, but several to be had, and he didn't get them, chose not to, didn't scout them, didn't get them, couldn't have got them, like Stafford or Rodgers, whatever it is. That'll be part of the overarching. And when I went through the list of things the other day, I did not include Sam Darnold, of course, but yeah, maybe he turns into a guy that people regret not getting.
My buddy that gave me the DJ Moore Debo comp, maybe I hadn't watched enough DJ Moore, but the more I watch him, I do see they're kind of smaller guys, but they're thick. DJ might be I guess Debo plays pretty fast too. That guy's good.
Yeah, and he is pretty thick.
He's thick. He hauls ass.
What's with the numbers on the Panthers shoulder pads that are like an inch tall? Why do they have like mini numbers on their jerseys?
It's kind of weird. I'm not in love with their jerseys. Cowboys. Dak 4 touchdowns. Zeke had a touchdown.
I mean,
that's another thing. That's
14 to 22.
Now Dak,
14 completions, 4 of them were touchdowns.
Is dramatically better than what the Niners were running at quarterback. But like Joe Brady and Kellen Moore, and this is where I think Kyle's getting heat. Like when you're a top offensive guy in 2021, it's never been easier to do shit now. Like you should score 25 points. If you don't, we think of you as a bad coach. It's really that simple. Like you should score a point. Like even today, the Chiefs game against Sirianni, like
scored 30.
Their offense felt like it could do some stuff, didn't it?
Well, who was calling that game? Whoever it was made the point early in the game.
Maybe? No.
Whoever the analyst was, it was Ian. It was Eagle. So maybe Charles Davis.
It was Charles Davis. It was Charles Davis. Yeah.
And he made the point pretty early in the game. Like what it appears to me is happening is they are doing things that make Jalen Hurts comfortable. They are taking him back to his Oklahoma offense, and they're just trying to move and move and move and move. So. Yeah, they get credit for that. Sirianni gets credit for that. Sirianni, who has the same look, they showed here's Sirianni through the years. And it was just the same every time. Like Sharpie tucked into the hat, Sharpie clipped onto the visor, just same look on his face.
You know what's funny? It's like when you do things like that, it's easy to make fun of. Like why does he have these 3 Sharpies? But as someone who loses a lot of pens, yeah, I do understand. Like you might set it down, you walk away, you're like, where's my orange pen? I use this to mark off. He clearly has probably a strategy, like when he's doing notes on his call sheet. I don't want to do this again, or I do. Probably a different color of the Sharpie. So, you just have your own thing that works, right?
Yeah. I knew a guy who wore 2 watches. One on each wrist.
Extreme.
Well, you never know. Maybe you're looking left and you need to, when you're sitting somewhere and you need to know what time it is, but you don't want to be obvious that you're looking at your watch. You
see this guy who tweeted at me and you with a picture of Tito's and his kid, and we both just did some cool, let's go or whatever. Just a random guy tweeted back at him. We were both on it like, hey, bro, is that a Submariner? Because he had it looked like he had a Rolex on.
No, I didn't see.
The dude was like, hey, bro, is that a sub on your wrist?
Watch internet is always on the hunt.
I know.
Watch internet's always on the hunt.
I feel like watches have kind of slowed down in their importance in society a little bit.
Yeah, which maybe will make them maybe it'll swing back around. Then if everyone's got an Apple Watch, it'll make it kind of cool to have.
I do wonder though, as technology comes, they could be something that falls off a little bit.
I tried to wear I got an Apple Watch for a day, and I didn't like it having it there. But a lot of people love it. I didn't like getting like all my text messages right there. Like, it's too much.
I walked by a guy the other day. He was talking into it. I'm like, bro, we got a phone that does everything that acts like a computer. I'm with you. I just, if it tells the time and I don't do a couple other cool things. The reason I
wanted it is I wanted a silent alarm. Like, I hate the sound. I just wanted it to like buzz, 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 buzz me awake on the wrist. But it was just too much going on, you know.
Could you turn the text message feature off?
You can, but then, yeah, you can. I'm sure you can. So maybe
What's an Apple Watch? $500?
No, I got like a used one on it. You know, not a used one, but like 2 models old. Maybe it was $300. I don't know. I returned it. Green Bay beat Pittsburgh, like you said. Juju. I just saw the Juju clip. Juju also slammed the Microsoft Surface down. You mentioned the Chiefs defensively; they might have some issues. Washington
is the Steelers. Are they 1-3?
Pittsburgh is 1-3. Yep.
And the Brownies, they got an easy win today against the Vikings.
Browns, yeah, that was just a complete game by them. We almost took Washington, Atlanta. Not almost, but we talked about back when we were talking about doing
Washington covered.
Yeah, I know. It would have been a thrilling cover. The way that game ended was wild.
Did it feel like? Did you have Red Zone on it all today?
Yeah, I did.
Didn't it feel like that game was getting a lot of Red Zone time?
Yeah, I did.
I felt it did. Well, I didn't see much of the Vikings-Browns game. Obviously, it was 11-7 for most of the game. I felt like I got a lot of Atlanta, Washington.
A lot of Jets, Tennessee, I think, too. And all
a lot of Jets, Tennessee,
right?
Yeah.
Baltimore kicked Denver's ass.
Teddy Bridgewater got KO'd.
Drew Lock, 12 of 21, 113 and a pick. Raiders Chargers will be Monday Night Football. That's what's coming up Monday. This is a phenomenal game. No Manning cast, John. Just FYI, everybody.
That sucks.
No Manning cast.
We can do a Manning cast. Promo code HAM1. You want to do a Manning cast?
Yeah, we can do a Manning cast. Thinking out loud. Giants won the division. Gabe Kapler, John. Dominant baseball manager.
How many games they win? 107?
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, the Dodgers, I was talking to a buddy on Saturday who's like, it's kind of crazy they play in a one-game playoff. And I said, I agree. Like, you play 162, it's nuts. But I love it. Like, it's awesome. Especially because we almost had, like, some play-in games to get to the wild card game, which would have been bananas.
I'm no baseball historian. There can't be many teams, if any, in baseball history that went 106-56 and finished second place. That has to be the best second place record in the history of baseball, doesn't it? Because remember the historic Giants when they missed the playoffs and they had won 103 games, I think? 106 games and not win their division.
Yeah.
It's not just the Giants won the division. I mean, they had the most historic season in the history of the franchise, right? They won more games than any ever time in the history of the San Francisco Giants. And it truly, like, the Dodgers had the team. Like, people bet on the Dodgers to win 106 games. Like, that's what they were supposed to do, right? They had one of the best teams, what they thought of all time. What the Giants did is one of the most remarkable things in the history of baseball.
Yeah, so the Dodgers, even in the eras, were only the team where you only two teams played each other for the pennant. You know, like there was no playoffs. It was just the Dodgers, the Giants.
Yeah.
They're the playoffs. That's the pennant. There's one series. The winner of that goes to the World Series. Even in that era, no team that quote-unquote finished second won as many games as the Dodgers won this year.
So when you won the pennant back then, that meant you didn't win the NL. You just won, like, the whole side of the conference?
No. The pennant was winning the NL or the AL, but there wasn't a playoff. There was just the two best records played for the pennant. That was the whole playoff.
So there wasn't technically like winning a division didn't guarantee you anything. You had
I don't even know if they had divisions back then. I just think they had a national.
But it wasn't that long ago when the Giants missed in like the year before the strike.
They had to. Yeah, that was. But that was fewer divisions that year, I think.
Oh yeah, because the Braves were in their division. Huh?
Right.
That was weird.
They won 103 games that year.
It's weird. In football and baseball, remember the Atlanta teams were in like the Giants and Niners. They played each other.
East or the West.
That make any sense?
No.
I guess Seattle used to be the football team used to be a Western, I guess a AFC team.
Yeah, the A's won 102 games in 01, but remember the Mariners won 116 games.
But that's like one of the greatest seasons in the history of baseball, right? The 116 team.
Yeah.
Now they got bounced.
They did.
They got bounced. 116 is even way crazier than 107, and 107 is insane. 116, I mean, when did that team ever lose? That's insane. To me, 97, 98 always felt like, oh, that team's a powerhouse, right? Like
Yeah.
97 always
Yeah.
felt like 13-3 in baseball or
Yep.
football. 107 would be the equivalent to me of like 15-1 in football. Like that's stupid.
It's ridiculous. And for both of them to do it, I saw the Giant celebration and how big it was. And they like that. They earned as big of a celebration as whatever they had. When you have to constantly be fighting a team off one game behind you.
Well, do the Dodgers throw a big celebration if they win the wild card, or probably not as much, given they're the defending champs against St. Louis?
Yeah, maybe not as much. The one gamer. I think maybe it just feels a little different. Not that you've earned any less, but when you have to battle 5 games, there's just more of an exult afterwards as opposed to a one-game playoff where it's just like, all right, we survived.
But in baseball, they throw the parties after every series.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think when the longer it takes for you to accomplish something, the bigger your celebration usually is. And a wild card game is different than a 5-game series.
I think
in
it
that way.
bothers some people. You know, it's like, why are they throwing these parties? And the reality is like, hey, guys, these guys drink a lot anyway. Who even cares? They're just drinking out in the open for these. You know, just let them.
I don't know. Does it actually bother anybody other than
think-
like some sports talk guy will have a take because there's nothing else to talk about? Like, you can't celebrate after divisional championships.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that even a real take that any
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
Monday Night Football, John, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL face off. You know, the crazy thing about the Chargers is if the Raiders beat them, they're 2-2. As big as their year has felt, 2-2, which, you know, whatever, fine. You'll make the playoffs probably at 2-2, but it feels like the Chargers have been
Chiefs
one
are
of the,
2-2. I mean, the Broncos are going to come back to earth.
the Broncos are going to come back to earth. Yeah. I'm just saying it feels like the Chargers have been one of the big stories of the league this year. And again, this is the 3rd week in a row we're having this conversation. If the Raiders beat them, the Raiders will have one of the most impressive. Obviously, the record in and of itself, just being 4-0 would be impressive, but the way they've done it, you know, the day's just about done. We still have the Sunday Night Football game, but there's only one 4-0 team in the NFL today, and that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah,
So
I
you could
mean, it'd be an incredible win, no matter how it looks for the Raiders. You win this game, you start 4-0. You beat the Ravens. Ravens are 3-1. You beat the Chargers, who are 2-2, but they're a good 2-2. Like, to me, they're an eye test. They're kind of like the Chiefs. Like, yeah, they're fucking fine. Like, I wouldn't want to play them, right? Like, the Chiefs could be 4-4, and you'd be like, you want
Absolutely.
to mess with them? I think the Chargers fall into the same vein because of the quarterback. I think it's going to be a Raider home game, though. Like, I bet it's pretty loud for them. I bet Herbert's having to do this.
Yeah.
God, the no Manning cast means I got to watch those 3 guys.
John, right now the Chargers, now again, things happen. Denver falls off. Tell me how many of these teams in the AFC, as we reach the quarter poll, even though it's not really a quarter of a season, how many of these teams do you think will just remain playoff teams? These are the teams right now in the AFC that are playoff teams. Raiders, Bengals, Bills, Titans, Ravens, Broncos, Browns.
Browns, yes. Broncos, probably not.
Yep.
You say the
So let's
Ravens,
just go one at a
the Ra-
time.
the Ravens,
Bengals,
yes.
yes or no?
They have a pretty awesome quarterback.
And their division, you know, they got Baltimore, but there's no reason why they couldn't be second place in a wild card, right?
Probably not a playoff team, but I think they're going to be heard of. Someone DM'd me the other day, like, is this Bengals game for the Niners look a lot harder? I'm like, yeah, fuck. They gotta right now. Who would you rather have, Joe Burrow or Lance Garoppolo?
Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Advantage Zach Taylor.
So Cincinnati, let's just say no. Buffalo, yes. Tennessee,
Well, yeah, because their division. The Colts won.
Ravens,
today, but-
yes. Denver, no. Cleveland, yes. So my point is, there's 2 playoff spots in the AFC. Right? Again, we're a long ways away, but that's what it feels like right now. 2 spots. It might just be the Chargers and the Chiefs plug into those 2 spots. But
What's the Titans record?
Titans are 2-2.
Oh, so they're not 3-1. I guess the Colts aren't totally dead yet, are they?
No, I don't think they are 1-3, but it just takes a lot when you're 1-3.
But you just got to catch a team that's 2-2.
Yeah, but the 2-2 teams, the Chiefs.
No, but I meant you just one of those two. That division's only getting one team, right?
Oh, the South?
The AFC South.
You saying they got to catch Tennessee? Yeah, you're right. That's true. So, but my point is just like the Chargers, they're in good shape. We think they look really good, but you know, being 2-2 in an AFC that feels like it's only 2 spots kind of up for grabs once the Raiders start playing the way they're playing, especially if the Raiders win and are 4-0.
Yeah, it's big for them because if the Chargers win, they'd have wins over the Raiders and the Chiefs. I mean, it's pretty big to have 2 wins over teams in your division.
Yeah.
You'd be 3-1 with 2 big wins. And the Raiders, like, you lose this game, it's not that crazy. You lost a road division game, you're 3-1. You're still in pretty good shape. Who do the
Raiders are in great shape. And the Raiders just look good. Like, I watch them, I go, that's what a playoff team looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I expect them to play well, but I would probably bet on the Chiefs. But here's the Raiders. Then they get the Bears, the Broncos, the Eagles, the Giants. To me, the Raiders, this is you go, 3 wins a month, you're in pretty good shape. Beside the month,
if they win Monday night, they could be 6-0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if they don't win this, they're in pretty good shape to rattle.
Could they be 7-0? Could they be 8-0 going into the Chiefs game?
It's not out of the realm of possibility. But are they good enough to not blow a random game?
No, I mean, most teams in the NFL do that, but they will have, if they're 8-0, the first 4 games they played would have been cumulatively more difficult than the second 4 games.
Could they be the number 1 seed?
Yes.
If they win this game, they could go on a legit run.
Whose defense is better, the Raiders' defense or the Chiefs' defense?
I mean,
the Raiders' defense.
Yeah. The Chiefs' offense is better, though. I mean, Mahomes is a better player than Derek.
For the first time today, I watched Amari Cooper and went, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they miss him.
He's pretty good.
He's really good, but they're good on offense.
Yeah. Their problem was they traded him for Jonathan Abram. So it was a flop, the switch,
Yeah.
But I love paying Amari $20 million a year,
If
If his price point was like 16, I'd feel pretty good about it. Amari's king of this. And listen, he's tougher than I'm going to make him out to be. He does go down a lot in games, pouts a little on the sideline, helmet off. And then it's like he's got something. He keeps rubbing his leg. And then like 2 series, like Amari's back in. He's a big, like, misses a series here and there and then comes back.
You know what happens a lot too? And again, maybe this is wrong. Someone call me out on this if I'm wrong. But like Amari will make a play. I'll see it on Red Zone. I'll be like, Amari had a hell of a day today. And then I'll check the box score. It's like 3 for 69 and a touchdown.
But he's having a good season. He's been good since they paid him.
There's no question he's been good, but it's just, with the Raiders, given what he's making, take him over Ruggs and Brian Edwards right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with the money, probably not. I mean, he's on pace for like 90 and 12. His numbers would be fine.
He's really good. Yeah.
But he's not as good as I think you'd ideally want him for $20 million a year. You're on to something.
All right. Chargers Raiders Monday night. Can't wait.
I'm pretty fun. It's a good Monday night game.
It's a hell of a Monday night game.
It's actually a really good Monday night, Thursday night. I told you Raiders, Chargers, Rams, Seattle. Like that.
Yeah. That makes up for last. What was our Monday night game last week? Like,
we had a bad stretch.
Giants or something?
No, the Thursday night game was Bengals, Jags. That was bad. Monday night game last week was
Eagles, Cowboys, which in theory was good, but it was a bad game.
It was bad. Yeah.
Actually, the Thursday night game was better because the Thursday night game, I could actually watch it and go, all right, Trevor Lawrence does look, I'm going to use a cliche, he looks like what you would make in a lab. Like, he just looks ridiculous. And Burrow's a baller. Like, I actually could watch Thursday night football. You give me those 2 guys.
I could watch more Bengals.
I could watch more Bengals too.
Jamar Chase, how swaggy he looks.
Yeah.
I'm in. They got this random tight end that's like Kelsey Jr. now.
Who is that? Where did that guy come from?
I guess he popped an Achilles last year, missed the entire season.
Is he from what school did he go to?
Draft pick last year, I think 3rd round. I think he's a smaller school guy, Aluzier or something. They had a couple guys I had to look up, but the Bengals always have a weird roster. Besides a couple of their like stalwarts, you're like, where'd you find this guy? And you look him up. It's like Billy Haberman. They drafted in the late 2nd round from Wyoming, and you see he's like a 3 all-time Mountain West guy, and he like led the team in tackles. And they have a lot of just players like that.
Uzoma.
Yeah.
How you say it?
Yeah.
Auburn.
3rd round pick last year, right?
5th round pick in 2015.
Seriously?
Maybe thinking something else.
Number 87?
The guy that scored a couple touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been in the league since 2015.
Yeah, I thought he looked like Gronk. He's been in the league. He was drafted in 15. Has he been hurt a bunch?
I don't know, but they got a little big 3 with Burrow, Chase, and Joe Mixon. I was kind of feeling the Bengals.
I know. Yeah.
I didn't. I'm gonna end it on this. I felt a little uncomfortable Like, I'm sorry, you're allowed to go out and have a few pops with the boys. And like, I don't know what the girls were doing to Urban, but it's like he was taking some pictures. I think he might have been in Ohio for a function. Is that where he was?
Yeah, I did not love that either. Now, Urban clearly, did you see the move he was using?
No.
He had the arm over his crotch.
We didn't want to get a Woody?
Well, he is like, I am preventing. I'm not going to push you away, but no one can say that you're rubbing up right on me because my arm is here, creating like a barrier.
I didn't see one video where I went like, guys, he's not doing anything bad. He's just out with some.
I mean, look, his wife would not appreciate that video, right?
That's not true. She tweeted. She said, "I gave him a night out with the boys." Like, this is where I think a lot of people act differently. Every relationship is not the same.
There's no question. So most wives would not like seeing that video, but I do not like that video getting posted on Twitter.
I thought it was.
I don't.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I don't like it.
Let the guy fucking have a few drinks. Jesus Christ. I
don't like it,
I'm
John.
as big of an Urban hater as there is. I thought that was ridiculous. Everyone kicking him is like, guys, every one of you tweeting does the same shit. He's not doing anything bad. Half of the time, he was just taking pictures with people. It's like he was being a nice guy. Honestly,
was he? I didn't see much. I just saw the video.
Well, yeah, some chicks, tweeted it out like, "Who's this guy?" Obviously, know who it is, and he's like taking pictures with the chicks. Like he was just being nice. Now, did he sleep with them all? Maybe, but I mean,
but if not, then we shouldn't be casting us.
That's
the
again,
conclusion.
But everyone's concluding like, how do you know he's not in an open relationship with Shelly? Like, who knows?
Well, whatever. Now you're going to a whole other level.
But I'm
just
not.
saying.
I think a lot of
you
people,
are. Whatever. That's fine too. But what I'm saying is, people make an assumption about what happened after that photo was taken. That is a bit of a leap. That's my point.
She definitely quoted the tweet. She's active on Twitter, Shelly Meyer, and wrote like, "I'm here babysitting. I gave him a night out with the boys. # go get 'em herbs," or something like that.
No better way to shoot that whole thing down than that.
But no one cared, and they just kept going all in. Like no one gave a shit.
But see, I never even saw her tweet. I just saw the one thing, and I didn't care other than to say I didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Bar should be a sacred space, John.
Well, did you see the story that came out about Will Smith and Jada? They've been in this open relationship for like 30 years because.
Isn't that story been out for like 15 years?
Well, I think it became official. Like he admitted to it in his new book. Like we've been open, we've been sleeping with other people. I don't think it'd been like in print from Will Smith's mouth.
No.
Like our relationship's a little different than others. But it's one of those. That's where I go with Urban Meyer. I just think you can never quite underestimate rich people, what they do. Just they don't live like us normal.
Yeah,
people.
but it's not for like somebody across the bar with a cell phone. I was on a plane the other day. And this woman starts causing just a ruckus. I mean, just being belligerent.
With her mask or
no, it had nothing to do with that because somebody next to her was trying to get something out of the thing, and we're waiting to deplane, and she just starts lighting them up. And then the agent is like the flight attendant is like, hey, was very cool about it.
She's screaming,
and she was like, I don't give a fuck type situation, right? Like, and a lot of I don't give a fucks. And the woman says to her, like, just chill out. And a lot more, I don't give a fucks. And the guy next to me in like a Chiefs t-shirt, like pulls out his cell phone and starts like filming. And it's like, bro, come on. Like, no one's throwing fists here. If this is a fight, like, pull out your phone. But somebody yelling at somebody, I don't need you filming this. Like, I just looked at him like I appreciate when someone films something so I could see what was there. But
this is not a filmable.
Like, I'm just looking at him like, bro, you really don't feel like a douchebag pulling your phone out right now?
Well, he's praying to God something crossed the line. He's able to post it. I mean, that's right.
It's like, but you got to be there holding your phone doing that.
I know it's society. It's so fucked up. Every video you see in some of these weird moments, there's some weirdo booger eater, with their phone open. Like, put your phone away. That's one of my things. I want the Apple
Unless
Watch.
it's really good. Like, it was really good.
Yeah, but you just so many of these things. And I thought Urban was just let a guy, window shop. That's what he was doing. He's just window shopping with a few cocktails. He's 0-4.
Yeah, man. How about the clip of him like, I'm sorry, guys, my head's spinning right now. I appreciate that honesty, too. You see that one post-game Thursday night? They were asking him a question about something that happened, like this, that, or the other.
I just saw the quote.
And he was just like, he like tries to answer the question, and he's just like, I'm sorry. Yeah, my head's spinning right now. I was like,
Yeah.
that's just a human moment. You
Yeah.
can't believe it's this hard.
Can you imagine, in fairness to any coach, getting peppered about every single play, especially probably if you're in a tight game, you're so dialed that last like 10 minutes of the game. Like, how could you? Hey, coach, in the second quarter with 3 minutes, you elected. You're like, bro, I gotta have to check the tape. I don't fucking know.
Ask McVay.
Yeah, I'll get back to you, bro. The team account will tweet it out.
Oh man. All right. On that note,
Adios.
later, buddy.